Hello?
Hello. There we go. How's it going?
Going well.
Nice. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, thank you. You too.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely just forgot. And I was like, there's no way I scheduled a lesson on Thanksgiving and just never checked. And then I was busy with family and stuff. And then I was like, oops. So I'm glad we found the time to do it.
Yeah, it's all good. I just happen to have time today and yeah, as I said, we're celebrating it tomorrow. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
So I guess we could do the intro. You can just say your tag, where you're from, how long you've been playing, and goals for the game.
Okay, so I'm living in West Virginia now.
Mm hmm.
Um, but I'm from Houston originally, but I moved in with my girlfriend and her mom here, I guess.
Mm hmm.
Um, so tag is fogfish for now, and I've been playing seriously for like a year, a little over a year. But the first time I touched the game and Smash in general was like 2014 or 15, but I mainly just played Smash 4.
Okay, okay.
So I've only really like I played Melee kind of sparingly between like 2014 and like 2019-ish, I would say, but I only really picked up Melee and focused on it like a year ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And first tournament was this year, June, I think.
Okay. Yeah, a year is
Um,
not long with melee.
yeah, I know, I know. And then I guess goal, I think long-term goal is get top 100, and then shorter term goal is like get top 5 on the PR, and also get a set win over this Jigglypuff because he's like by far the best player in the state right now since Termaris moved.
I see. Yeah, and how has that been going? Have you gotten close?
Not that close, but I feel like all of our games, like I don't ever feel like it's a blowout. Um, and I kind of felt that since the first time we played, but I also like I've struggled with a few other people in the region, so I just haven't focused on this matchup because I was like, oh, I kind of want to try beating other people first because it's like if I just focus on him and then I don't know, I'd say a little under half the time I can't even get to him in bracket.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time I can now because he both of us show up every week, and then the other people that I usually lose to, it's like yeah, they haven't been showing up as much recently, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, yeah, I'll focus on
Okay, yeah,
beating
so he's like
Smack,
your
yeah.
primary target.
Right now, I would say, yeah.
Okay. And all right, so let's hop in. What's been going on in the sets? What do you feel like you need help with?
Okay, let me open my thing. I feel like so I have a hard time having like a specific game plan. Um, and I think, well, I guess by that I kind of mean like what I'm looking for at specific percents
Mm-hmm.
and like kill confirms and stuff like that. Because I feel like I kind of just do quote unquote like regular Falco stuff, like kind of look for openings with like down air and shine and like up tilt when they're above me.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that's what I do against Peach a lot, for example. Um, because there's a lot of Peaches here, so I feel like I'm okay at that matchup. Um, I think I just kind of do that, but like a little more patient than I would versus like another Falco or something like that. Um, and I think the other thing is I kind of just have a hard time following Puff when she's moving around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like when I play against Hammer, it's kind of the only time that I don't really feel like I can track my opponent. Like I feel like a lot of the other people that I play, they kind of have areas that they sort of frequently stick around, but with Zac, it's I don't know. It's just harder for me to sort of see where he's going. So I feel like I just get tricked because he's hard to hit, and I don't really know when he's gonna come in and hit me. So I kind of just get hit.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, well let's. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
have more.
that's mainly it
Okay.
for now.
All right. Well, are you watching the Discord stream?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, cool. So I will hop into this and take a look for a second.
I will also say, this VOD is like 2 months old, and there's some habits that I noticed that I don't really have now, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the stuff is pretty similar. Like I still
Okay.
have kind of the same down airs. I feel like I still have trouble recovering. I still get pushed in the corner, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that a year in, this is definitely one of the tougher matchups because it's
Hmm.
so much of it is just based on like reacting to Puff's position and then doing some like perfect, not necessarily super perfect, but like pretty accurate like tech skill thing.
Hmm.
Okay. Seems like it'll be a kind of a fast game, so I might just finish watching this.
Yeah, they're mostly pretty fast.
Okay, that was a good up smash.
I think game two was a little slower, if I remember correctly. But yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Hmm.
I got kind of a lucky break there.
What's up?
I was just saying I got kind of a lucky break with the up B hitting and not getting
Yeah.
confirmed there.
It is nice
He's
when
usually pretty
Falco's up
consistent.
B accidentally hits Puff because it always kills her so early.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. So yeah, I'm down to go over the game plan after this. Hmm. Sometimes I feel like it's always sometimes some lessons I feel like it's really simple and
Hmm.
like the issue will just kind of jump out and stuff like that, and then sometimes I'm like, huh, it's not necessarily that straightforward. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna go over the basic game plan stuff, and then we can watch the other games and see opportunities where you might have been able to do something different.
Okay.
So the most important piece of this matchup, first of all, is that you should essentially just be playing to never be hit by Puff. You don't need to
Okay.
worry about actually hitting her ever. There's not there shouldn't be like even if you are down like a stock and she's playing really campy, it's still in your interest to just play very very slow. Eventually you'll be able to probably get a hit You should, like, let's say I'm here and Puff is here. There's no world where I should ever approaching Ariel.
Mhm.
Because she can, like, power shield rest me. She can wave dash back grab. She just has these crazy, crazy, like, high reward options for if I try to get her. But in terms of approaching me, I have the back airs, I have nair, I have down air, I have up tilt, I have shine at a shield. And those options make it very, very difficult for Puff to actually get in on me. And I have
Okay.
lasers. So eventually I'll be able to find some sort of trap with a laser to be able to get her. Whereas she just has her moves. And so as long as I'm avoiding getting hit by those moves, the laser advantage will eventually manifest itself in a way where I get a hit. That is like the overall mentality. Is this matchup is exclusively Puff trying to get in on you, and then you defending. Because if you imagine it, the match starts and you get this, and then technically you would win on timeout. Like
Uh-huh.
I've said before that, like, in a perfect match of Falco Puff, where not necessarily a perfect match from the Puff end, but if, like, against a campy Puff, if you are playing Falco correctly, you should win 4 stocks to 4 on percent. That would be like
Okay.
if they decided to really, really camp you, you know. And most
Yeah.
Puffs won't be able to do that, but you have to play with that in mind. And unfortunately, every game against Puff, you need to play with the mentality that the match could go to timeout. And that's true with every character. But in this one in particular, I think because she has such a hard time ever getting in on Falco when played correctly, they tend to want to just kind of, like, first they'll try to push their way in. And then as soon as they realize they can't push their way in and you know the correct patterns, then they'll kind of just start jumping around up here. And what they want is for them to be like, what they want is, they want to be like doing this, like this or whatever. And then you jump up and you try to hit them, and then they get below you, and then they get like an up air rest or something like that. That's kind of their goal. And so a general rule in this matchup is you don't want to get above Puff. If you go above Puff, you want to go really far above her, like to a platform or something like that, and then avoid the up air. Like, you don't want to come down directly on top of her. And you wanna in general, like, for instance, like when she's invincible and she comes back, your best bet is to do something like you do it like this, where you, like, wave dash out of shield and then, like, roll, rather than, like, going to a platform and jumping like you would against most characters. Okay, let's see. So which part should I go over first? So the fundamental laser in this matchup is the high laser. And the reason for that is that it beats her full hop. And so what she kind of wants to do is she wants to do something where she kind of gets, like, this thing where you shoot like a laser or something, and she jumps over it, and then she gets this, or she jumps over and she gets like a nair type of thing, or the other option is she goes from here and she does like a rising fair. And all of those have full hop in it. If she short hops, that's kind of like a different story. But the full hop is going to be the biggest thing that they're going to end up doing a lot. And so what you can do is for instance, I'm going to do this back air, and I'm going to move in like that. And then from the Falco end, oops, 1 second, I didn't record it right. Something like that. And then from the Falco end, I'm going to shoot this high laser right here, and it cancels out her full hop. And so sometimes I get it nice and low, where it cancels out her jump entirely, and she's this low to the ground. And sometimes you get it when she's more so coming down like that, where, like, it cancels it out right there. And so the importance of the laser there are multiple things that make it so good. The first thing is that it completely invalidates back air, because it forces her to face you. So she knows if you manage to hit the laser every time she's in the air, she can never actually back air you. She's forced to use forward air, which is a lot more committal. It doesn't have, like, the quick auto cancel and stuff like that.
So she gets turned around once the laser hits?
Yeah, the laser hits her and turns her to face you. And I remember, it's so funny. I feel like the fact that the laser makes them face you is, like, it's, like, so obvious that it's like you miss it. Like, someone had to tell me that. And, like, I had been playing Falco for a while, and someone was like, yeah, you shoot her and she faces you. And I was like, oh, Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
And so, like, it's really good because it invalidates her potential to actually back air you, and it limits her drift. So notice that, like, when I do this, her drift is stopped, and she has to regain her drift, which does happen pretty fast, but her drift stops. So notice that she doesn't, like, imagine this, imagine, like, if she did this jump, and she did full distance all the way here, she can get really, really far. So, for instance, if I do, like, if I do this, look how far I get,
Yeah.
versus if I cut her out of it, she only gets that far. And so, and it also depends on what the height is that you hit her with the laser, because if I hit her early in the jump, that's her max range. That's the same input as the one that goes all the way over here. And so, it's kind of like with some other characters like Fox, where Falco will never be faster than Fox, but you can use the lasers to slow Fox down so that he's slower than you. And that's what you want to be doing with Puff, is on the ground, the lasers aren't as relevant because you're pretty much faster than Puff while she's on the ground. You're more worried about when she's in the air because that's where she's faster than you. And so if you can prevent her from moving in the air and prevent her from back airing you from the air, that's already like a big reduction in her options. And so that's why this full hop laser is so important, and it's actually like, when I am fighting Puff, I am shooting this full hop laser, or sorry, not this full hop laser, the high laser, like every time I think she might jump ever, and I shoot it every time she's gonna come down. So if, let's say, let me put it on FD so it's a little bit more obvious. So let's say she's up here. Like, they like to do this thing, right, where they go like 1, 2, and then they nair in, right? That's like a super common thing, and the reason they're doing this is that her jumps get shorter each jump.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to get the access to the third one, which is this short little jump. So let's see. So they do like this, and then they're gonna do this and try to grab me. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be like laser, 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 laser. And so like I'm shooting lasers this whole time with the high laser, like the high laser in line. And you need to be able to shoot the high laser like this and then fast fall after it. That's like very important.
Yeah.
But you hit this high laser, and then she can never get in on you with any of her falling aerials unless she's directly above you. Like, if she's, like, right above me, she can get in because the laser can't hit her. But even if I'm, like, right here, and then I'm doing, like, this... Well, if I did this, I would stop lasering because she's too close to directly above me. But as long as she's off to the side... I can keep I can keep the laser going like at the high spot and prevent her from going in pretty much. Like, if she tries to get in on me at this timing, the laser will always hit her. And so it, first of all, will cancel her attack because she's going to be going for like these like I said, like these auto cancel nairs and stuff like that. And so it'll cancel the auto cancel nair, and it makes her face you so she doesn't have the option for the back air, all that good stuff. And so the other advantage of the laser hitting her is that she has to either land out of it, which is like fine, but like I said, it reduces her mobility in general to be on the ground, or she has to double jump. And so a big point with Puff and her mobility and her double jump that is important to like wrap your head around is that basically like so look, here's my option. If I jump and I hit Falco, this is like the timing on it. And it's like, okay, so let's say if I'm here and I, for whatever reason, can't hit Falco right away, how am I going to delay this hit? And it's like, well, with a double jump. But watch the difference between this and that.
Oh my god, yeah.
The gap is gigantic.
Yeah.
So when Puff uses her double jump, it's always reactable like the second time. Like, essentially, like if you laser her, like she full hops at you, you laser her out of it, she double jumps. The option after the double jump is always reactable because the reset of her double jump, she takes forever to get down. Like I'm mashing fast fall. So I'm like, jump. That's how like Like, it
Okay,
takes
yeah.
forever to get down. And so that's why it's so sick, because when you hit her with the laser, like, let's say she gets lasered right here, her options are essentially drift back, drift down, drift forward, or do a double jump, which is now like a complete reset. Like, you can essentially see the double jump as like we've now reset the position. Like, it's the same as her being like here, like jumping, and but it's like, oh, it's really, really reactable. And so that's sort of the idea, is you laser her and then you deal with the situation where she would drift either in or out after this. Usually the one you want to watch out for is in. Like, I'll say like a really common situation, and you'll see like Magi do this all the time, for instance, is where Puff will go like can I even, I'm trying to get with the replay where okay, let me maybe like that. Yeah, so like that will happen where she pushes in with this fair, and you can dash back to beat it. That's kind of like the plan here, is if she pushes in after this, you get a dash back, and if she, let's say, instead of doing this push in for the fair here, double jumps out of the way, then like you already just set up a dash back and she did a double jump, and you can just set up the laser again and repeat the same situation.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that sort of like invalidates her falling fair after the full hop, and you can just react to what she's going to do after the double jump. And it just repeats the same situation. And so that's like the main, like, she is approaching me from like a diagonal angle that you're gonna want to deal with. So that is like that's like the big one, because the majority of the match, Puff doesn't want to be that close to you, like, in terms of like, she doesn't want to be in a spot where you can just jump up and hit her like whenever.
Yeah.
And so she's generally going to be floating in this diagonal range and then trying to like sneak in on this diagonal underneath, like over a laser. But as long as you time the lasers to her falling on you, and then you're aware of the possibility that out of the laser she can drift in fair you, then you're kind of good. And I think some Puffs will do a thing where they will take the laser and do a pound, and it's good if there's a delay, but I like wouldn't worry about it too much for now.
Okay.
The pound, the weird pounds are always kind of an issue in this matchup, but she's not gonna be doing them that often, because when they whiff, you get like nair, back air, whatever. You get a big opening because they have so much lag. So it's like, I'm not as concerned about you dealing with those for now. I'm more concerned with being able to beat the aerials, because that's like what was hitting you in the game, and that's like generally like the most common way for Puff to deal with stuff. So that's the diagonal. Then the other part of this matchup is when Puff gets above you like this, and she does something like that, where she's doing this like ambiguous drift mix-up. And so the way that works is basically, if you can get underneath Puff full hop, like I said, it's this weird thing where you're both kind of thinking about this spot, because she kind of wants the 45-degree angle, and with the high lasers, you kind of want the 45-degree angle. And then, like, she's like, okay, well, I don't want that anymore. I'm going to, like, get right on top of you. And then you're like, okay, if you try to get right on top of me, I can also get right on top of you. It's that sort of thing where you can kind of, like, see if the Puff is trying to come in from right above you or from the sideways angle. And if she's trying to come in from right above you, you can kind of just dash in. And I like to do dash in and crouch, because when you dash in and crouch, first of all, you get this, not even dash in and crouch, but you get this like 50-50, where you get like, I can hit you on this side, or I can hit you on this side. And these back airs are really, really good, like the short hop back air. Once she's already above you and she's trying to do a mix, it happens really often where they do something like this, where they'll be like that. They do some sort of crazy thing like that, and I'll just be here and I'll just be here and then do that. And you can also be here and try to, and it's kind of like a mix on it, but you're regardless if she hits you out of the air with this weak nair, and so like if she hits you like this, like that, it's like you're generally not in as bad of a position as if it hits you like this and like sakurai angles or something. But normally you should be able to see where she's coming from, and you also get to like move around and choose a side. So the odds of you guessing wrong directly into this are a lot lower because you'll see her and you're like, okay, she's right above me. You can kind of like see her momentum post double jump and stuff like that and decide on which way you want to go. And a lot of times, even if you guess wrong, you get like a nice safe back air out of it. And then a lot of times what'll happen is something like this, where I get this, and then I go back to the high laser stuff. And I'm kind of trying to keep her locked on the ground, and then maybe she jumps into it and tries to fair me, and I get the down air here, and then like that. That's like a pretty common like type of flow in this matchup. The other thing is that if she drops on you from above, you can just basically always shine out a shield it. They can somewhat get around it by using like a drill to sometimes like poke your shield. But in general, you can get Shine Out of Shield, and you can get CC on pretty much everything. So whenever you're like, let's say I'm here, and I don't know which side Puff is going to be on, I can just crouch right here, and I'm basically just safe, like, no matter what. Even if she gets me with something like that and I don't like it, I can leave. But if I decide, oh, I know which side she's on, I can get this, or I can be like, oh, she's going to drop on me, Shine. And you get, like, CC Shine. And so the key is that when she's up above you like this is when you don't want to laser, because that's when she can hit you with these types of things. So you kind of have to like decide whether you're going to treat the situation more as a Puff directly above me type of CC like back air mix type of thing, or is it Puff off to the side where I'm going to use the lasers. And you can actually a lot of times decide by just like, oh, I'm going to go underneath you. I choose to do the laser situation here rather than like, or even move back. I choose to do the high laser spot here rather than like moving under. But sometimes they can use that to like push you into the corner. So maybe I want to hit this, and then I dash in, like I'll do this, oops, I'll get under you. So I shoot this first laser, they double jump over it, and because there's that big window after the double jump, now maybe I run in and get the CC. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because one of the questions that I had written down was like, I feel like I get forced in the corner easily.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a lot of sense. Because I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I'm sort of pushing myself in the corner. Like, it's not like she's...
That happens a lot really
unbreakable
easily in this
walls,
matchup,
but
yeah.
I just don't know how to beat it.
And that's why, like, getting low here and, like, CCing under the full hop is... Or especially the double jump. I would say I do it more under the double jump, because normally if she's full hopping, I'm trying to shut it down with the laser. But then if she double jumps, oh, I'll just get right under you. This situation happens so often, where I get something like this,
Yeah.
she jumps up, and then I'll get, like, I'll get a back air here.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah.
And okay, and then the last spot, there's a couple ways to deal with this. This is like the last, so that's sort of like how to deal with full hop / double jump, which is 99% of Puff's tools. The other thing they'll do is sometimes they will randomly decide to start wave dashing around a lot. So they'll do like, they'll just be here and they'll be like, oh, I'm so bad at this. Something like that. And what they want is for you to do this down air so that they get this. What they want is, oh, they want like, I need to remember it's the same as Falco. They go like wave dash in and then they shield and they get like a grab. And what they want is for you to be like, you're like, here's Puff, I'll try to hit her. And then they get this wave dash in and they get a grab. That's like what their goal is they want to wave dash in and shield this and then get a grab. And so the thing to make, it's very simple. Right here, every time Puff does this sort of like wave dash in maneuver type thing, just do a slightly fade back aerial. Like, as long as you're not moving in on the aerial, her grab range is so short that she can basically never get you. It doesn't matter whether you do a nair or a back air, or sorry, a nair or a down air. As long as you're not approaching with it at all, and I like shield stop a lot because it just feels like I can make sure never to accidentally go forward out of it. She can't like, she just like really can't approach into these as long as you don't move forward at all. And so, like, the grounded stuff, she doesn't really have too many options against, like, the sort of, like, retreating aerial type thing. She only can deal with it if you actually approach into it. And if she moves a little bit too close to you, I do think you can do something like you can attack into it, but you got to be really careful because she can still hit you for it. I also think that you can kind of like do something like if you feel really threatened, you can just kind of get out and then get your laser reset. But like 99% of the time when she's doing these like scary wave dashes, you can just be really confident that like doing this will like basically keep you safe no matter what. The best she can get out of this is maybe forward air you. She'll never be able to actually grab you, which is, you know, the actual scary part.
Yeah.
So there's only one more piece of the matchup that is really, really, really common and super important to know. And that is the forward air, the instant forward air, which is you do something like you're doing these high lasers and you do this, and then she ends up kind of right in front of you. And then, so I'll do like this maybe, and then she gets like she'll like wave dash in here, and then she gets like that. Like they do this a lot, like the instant rising forward air. And so the way to beat this is you just have to do a dash back, and then I like to do shield stop back air, but like so when she does, so she'll do like that. Let's say she does that. And so I do like this, yeah. So I'll do this, and then boom. I'll just do that, boom. Do this. You can do shield stop back air, or you can do a dash back air. But the idea is that it's, as long as you see the forward air coming when she comes in, you get this free back air. And I just do this all the time, where I do laser dash away shield back air. And then this just kind of protects you from like the forward air in general. So it's like maybe I'll be here and I'll do this, I don't have enough time to do the second aerial, but I'll do something like that where you can also crouch here. So I like doing this, crouch, and you get the reaction. And if she's throwing out these instant forward airs, this is a lot of times. Even if you crouch here, you can get like away from it and then hit her. And so this is like the only other option she's doing. It's basically to hit you like this. She wants to hit you out of this laser. And so you can just, right here, instead of the laser, boom, throw the back air out. And that kind of covers every sort of way that she can actually hit you. It's always going to be a little tricky when there's platforms involved, because she can use these edges of the platforms to kind of sneak in. But I think that those are sort of more nuanced problems to solve. You want to be at least able, if you can solve, it's not even really solving, if you can execute the solution that I just gave you to like the full hop in, the full hop in, take laser forward air versus full hop in, take laser double jump, come back in, versus like trying to come right on top of you with the full hop / double jump, and then the wave dash in sort of grab cheese stuff. And the instant forward air. Those are like the main pieces of the matchup that you need to be able to deal with. And I would say that like the instant laser in particular, like the instant high laser fast fall, is sort of the entrance to most of it. And then once they find ways to get past that, to get right above you, that's when you start using the CC and the back air. And then once that doesn't work, they'll start trying to, kind of the order I went through it, then they'll start trying to wave dash grab you, and you get good at the fade back aerials, and then they start doing the full hop fair. Sometimes they'll do the full hop fair before the wave dash and grab. And this is just sort of like the order that you learn the matchup. And then once you have all that stuff there, and I think this is good because we're going to FD, so the platforms don't get in the way. Essentially, you want to be able to play the matchup here before you play it on any other stage. Not that you can't play it on other stages, but this is the stage where all of those options work as clearly as possible with like as little added chaos as possible. So
is this, do you think this is Falco's best counterpick stage?
I think it's probably Yoshi's.
Okay.
Just because Falco gets to kill her so early there.
Yeah.
That like the fact that Puff has a little bit, like, basically imagine like Puff gets wave dash off platform back air a lot easier. But if she gets lasered out of that back air and you do jump shine wavelet on top platform shine off the top at like 30, it kind of evens it out because you basically like rested her.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and
That
and
makes
so
sense.
FD is the stage, like I think Ginger in particular counterpicks this stage more than Yoshi's, I think, and it's because it has more control potential. Like it has the most control potential on Jigglypuff out of all the stages, and it's definitely a good counterpick for Falco. But Jigglypuff also lives a pretty good amount of time, whereas on Yoshi she just dies like really really fast.
Hmm.
Do you have any other questions about the stuff I've been saying so far? Is it all like lining
I mean,
up?
the only specific question is like, uh, is the backers you're doing their auto cancel backers, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that was okay. That was one thing. Okay, really quick before I get back into it, I that does remind me of one last piece of the matchup that I wanted to
Okay.
show. And it's when she's at really high percent and you get her into the corner, you can do this sort of thing where like, and I have yet to find a situation where anyone ever escapes from this. But basically you can do this like laser and you do this late back air, like laser, and you mix up jab and you kind of get this where you go like, and you don't have to do the waveland, you can kind of just do this, but you're basically creating a spot where you eventually get this back air pressure. And even if they're shielding the back air, you're doing a late back air and they won't be able to get the shield grab. And you're
Right.
kind of you're kind of creating a spot where you're like, look, if you randomly full hop aerial out, you'll probably go above me and I get this back air or this back air. And if you stay there shielding, I'm just gonna kind of set up like this. So I'll kind of like laser and then I'll do like that when they're in the corner, and this kills a lot of times at high percent. That's just like one last thing I wanted to mention. That's like the only spot in the matchup essentially where I will use like a late back air, is when she's at really high percent and I'm holding her in the corner. Other than that, the auto cancel back air is kind of like the goat of this matchup.
Okay.
And so when you're analyzing the puff sets you have, you can look at like the stuff we've already gone over and just make sure that you're doing those pieces correctly, and you'll notice the performance will just go like way way up basically without even worrying about the rest of the matchup. And this, it looks like it's not so at the level you're at right now in the matchup, it's definitely significantly more about doing the basic good things solidly. Once you
Hmm.
start doing the basic good things solidly, the matchup will very quickly become, and it stays like this forever, is a matchup where the goal is not like, it's less about doing really really good things and more about avoiding the bad things. The no's in this matchup are way more important than the yeses, because as long as you're doing the fundamental zoning pieces correctly, not not too much matters. Like right here, like if you aren't like, there's just so many ways that you could choose here after this first laser. You see the double jump, you can go underneath Puff, you can choose this way with a laser, you can stay underneath her. Like there's all these different ways you can actually play the spacing out. And because nothing actually happens out of it, like neither of you get hit out of that position, then like it doesn't really matter. And so as long as she's not hitting you, the choices don't super matter. And that's why like I just kind of stick to the solid ones as a basis and know that those will protect me, and then I look for spots after that. Because if you're going for like mix-ups, or you're trying to like sort of like make stuff happen, then you can very easily do the wrong thing. But as long as you're not doing the wrong things, not too much will go wrong. Okay, so, and yeah, and there's a lot of this stuff right now where like this whole situation where she's jumping around is essentially like it just doesn't matter that much, The only piece of this that actually matters is right here when she does the fourth jump in, that you need to be in one of two spots like we talked about. You need to be directly below her in like a crouch type of situation where you have a back air mix up, or you need to be off to the side far enough that the high laser can hit her out of this fall. And so this thing wrong with this situation was that you weren't underneath her ambiguously left or right, like right underneath her crouching, and you weren't shooting the high laser. And that's basically all you would need out of this situation is like, oh, I should have been shooting the high laser or underneath her. And you can kind of just like repeat that. Like that analysis. And you ideally want as many lasers as possible. Your moves, so you're gonna kill Puff on damage, and so like the best way to actually rack up damage in this matchup is to knock down with down air. And so eventually you'll get something, and I know I haven't talked about it much because I was focused on like the neutral, but eventually, and it's around like the mid 30s I think, that you have a consistent down air knockdown, and you'll eventually get like, oh, I lasered Puff out of the air and immediately down aired her, like a high laser, and then I got an instant down air. And before the down air knocks down, you don't really want to down air Puff too much.
Mm-hmm.
You want to really focus on lasers, the auto cancel back air. You can do the down air as long as it's like the fade away down air that I talked about when she's wave dashing in. But you mostly, there's sort of like this idea that like if Puff stays on the ground or short hops, that you're just gonna laser her all day. And then if she tries to jump, now you're trying to use the lasers to like keep her down or keep her up from getting to you. And it's like those lasers are positional, but at the same time they're also getting you closer to the percent where down air knocks down. And I'm sure you've seen Bobby stuff where he'll do like 6 down airs and Puff dies.
Yeah.
That is basically the only like truly relevant combo on Puff that Falco really has. Like you have a couple other things, but usually like the down air into like down air mistech and then you hit another down air and she pops up. Even like if you're not in a spot to kill her off of like down air, down air, down air, down air, that type of thing. If she's at high enough percent, the down air will knock her up into the air, and then when you hit her with the back air, her survival DI isn't as effective because she might go too high and die off the top. That's actually like a lesson that you can use for a lot of the characters that don't die easily from back air. Usually the examples I give are Puff, Doc, and Peach, where it's kind of hard to kill them off of back air. But if you down air them so that they fly high up in the air, then when you back air them, they can't do their big survival DI because they'll just die off the top. And so you have down air back air as a Puff kill option, and you have the up smash as a kill option, but usually, and you have like down air, but usually the road to getting there and actually getting your damage is either going to be the stuff I previously discussed with back airs or down air, like tech chase combos. And so she is not at knockdown percent yet, and so you do not want to be approaching with an aerial that isn't like a laser combo out of the air. Like if you laser her out of the air and get like a nair or something, like that's fine. But you don't want to be approaching her with an aerial while she's on the ground, because she can literally, first of all, she can CC grab this by crouching it. Falco's down air doesn't have enough stun at low percent. She can maybe shield grab it. She can power shield it and maybe get like a rest or something like that. Or she can just dodge it and then hit you for it. This is kind of like her comfort zone. Like, keeping Puff out is targeting the weaknesses of her character and approaching her, especially when she's at low percent. Because, like, think about this is like, you have to think about what the risk reward is. Where if you succeed at hitting this down air, you maybe get a down air shine. Maybe. And if you fail at hitting this down air, you potentially lose your stock. And so from the other end, Puff is in no danger. She has no danger of actually losing her stock out of this down air. So she's able, and she has the possibility to kill you. And so, like, this is a spot that I would tell a Puff main to try to make, because it's the risk reward is in their favor. And because of that, you want to avoid doing any of these. So yeah, this is a small thing where like if they go up really high like this and they're really far away, sometimes I will go for like the full hop and just laser them a bunch just to get some extra
Mm-hmm.
damage. It can be a little scary, and so I would say like err on the side of caution usually and don't do it. But once you get more comfortable with it, I would say you can definitely rip these sometimes, like the higher lasers here. But in general, it's not you don't need it that much. What you do need though is you need each of these to be a high laser. So
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
see is you want to see like a phantom Jigglypuff that doesn't exist that's coming down on you. So like right here,
Mm-hmm.
you have no guarantee that Puff is gonna double jump. So the laser needs to be covering this space right here, like creating like a ceiling where she can't drift. Like this whole thing is just like a laser. I guess for her, it's a laser floor. You're making like a
Mm-hmm.
laser floor for her that she has to pass through, which is basically you either get guaranteed damage where she falls into the laser, or she makes a double jump choice, and that's a reset.
That's the reset. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's not a perfect reset, like I said, because if she gets multiple double jumps, they get shorter. So as like a
Right. Yeah.
general
Yeah. Yeah.
recommendation, the more jumps they use, the more you want to tend towards the crouch cancel slash short hop back air angle because it's a little bit harder. It's the less jumps they have and the lower to the ground they are. Like if they're right here and they have already used 3 jumps, I will not usually be going for a laser. I will be going for like a dash and crouch most of the time. But if they have all their jumps, or even if they've used a bunch of jumps but they're this high up, the laser, you'll always have time to shoot the laser here. So like a laser would be out here. Now Puff is coming down. There's another Phantom Puff that could be falling here. And so you want to put another laser floor out right here. And you can also move in here. This is like another thing where like
Yeah.
you can always, this is like a nice rule, and I already talked about it a little bit. You can always just get directly under Puff, and it's a bad position for her. Like pretty much all the time. If you're directly underneath her, she's struggling. And so whenever she's up this high, you don't need to play, because remember, she's looking for the diagonal here. And
Mm-hmm.
this just happens so often where I'm like, okay, let's play the diagonal. I know you want it. And they're like, no, I'm not going to play it because I want like the best diagonal ever where you're in the corner. And they go up really high because they're trying to do this thing that Captain Falcon does where they're like, my drift is here, so you need to move back here. But in reality, they fall so slowly that them being this high up just means it's a free ticket to center stage.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you have access to Shine Out of Shield and CC, and auto cancel back air, you're fine. But Ginger actually has talked about this quite a bit, that Falco. So, okay. I think that getting to center stage here is probably better. I don't like being cornered. But
Mm-hmm.
Falco has very, like, because she can't use the platform to sneak in on you, you can technically, if you play correctly, hold this position with no worries. You don't actually need center stage here, because she can't get in on you anyway. But just for the sake of comfort, I usually prefer to go in here if she's going to let me get in.
Yeah. I definitely noticed that like one of the spots I get punished the most is just in the corner. Like I have not great panic options, and I
Mm-hmm.
just get hit for them.
Yeah, and it's just like a riskier spot, right? So I like the
Yeah.
center, but just know that like if you decided not to leave the corner there, it doesn't change the fact that she can't get in on you.
Okay.
But the center is just in general a little better position, and like I said, if you have a chance to get right under Puff, I feel like that is a more uncomfortable position for her than the diagonal. Like I think that Puffs like the diagonal, even though Falco wins that spot because it's a little harder to execute. Like it's harder for Falco. You have to time all these lasers perfectly. Whereas if you get right underneath her, you're basically like, if you whiff an obvious aerial, I'll full hop backer you, and if you come down on me, I'll short hop backer you or CC or whatever. It's not like her options aren't quite as strong from being underneath her. So like I would say like right here when she does this double jump, you don't have to play this laser position. You could get right underneath her here, like
Mm-hmm.
right here. And that is like a really good position. But if you choose not to, and there is a freedom to do either one, as I've mentioned a couple times, the lasers here need to be high. They have to be high.
Yeah.
If they're not high, like, look at this. So, like, let's say Puff does come in on this laser. Let me do it. Oh, also, in general, these are good. Like, these trades, like this trade you just did. If you can get a trade with Puff that's not with her up air, it's great. Small note, because I might not have time to get to it otherwise, that if you can take damage in this matchup without dying, it's really good for you. And I don't recommend trying to give her free damage, you know? But, like, there's this thing where if Fox and Falco get over 80 against Jigglypuff, they get, like, a pseudo-immortality. Like, she super struggles to kill them. Because every hit either is, like, she back airs you at 100, you're either going to slide off and grab ledge, or fly off stage and side beat a ledge before she can actually make it over. And so the reason why I usually say 80 is because that's when, like, falling up air, if she does, like, a landing up air on you, there's no chance at all for her to get a follow-up off of the up air. So up air doesn't combo, and her only other moves hit you sideways that allow you to either slide off or recover. And so your main danger zone is at these lower percents. Like, I would say 34, you're in, like, prime danger territory against Puff. And, like, if she wants to trade, like, if she just throws out a bad aerial and you can trade with it, that's generally almost never against your to your disadvantage. Generally in your favor to trade and get damage.
Like when you're saying trading with her is, like, good if I don't die, it's kind of like, it's because, like, the implication is, like, I'm kind of zoning so well that she can't get any of her, like, high value openings, so she just has to get, like, I don't know, like a random fair or something like that doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah, like, to clarify what I'm saying, it's basically that, like, you kill Puff by her getting to high percent, and she kills you by getting a setup at low to mid percent.
Oh, okay.
And so if you both hit each other, like, you both trade Nair versus back air 6 times, and you both end up at 80 damage, she has lost all of her kill setups, and you have gained all of your kill setups. So she thrives by basically hitting you, like, once or twice, and then looking for either up air rest or up throw rest or some form of, like, thing like that, like looking for, like, a rest setup or a low percent edge guard. And where she really fails is killing Falco. Like, if you live past 80, you can live, like, 8 more neutral openings and die at 150. That's, like, very common as both Fox and Falco. Whereas, like, as soon as Puff is at 80, if you down air her once, she's probably going to die. And so I wasn't saying necessarily that, like, you should be, like, farming trades, but if you ever do happen to get a trade, like you're here, like, she's at 6 and you're at 24, and you trade like this, where now you're at 34 and she's at 18, you should feel very good about that. That's what I'm trying to say. You should be like, yes, like, let's take more of those. They don't usually give them to you, but, like, the higher you can get your percent, low key, the better. Especially if you can get over 80, you're chilling. She cannot even hurt you over 80. And so, yeah, this was the laser I wanted to mention. If these lasers, it happens so fast. Right here. So if these lasers are not high enough, notice how it's only just barely here. It needs to be, like, up here. If they're not high enough, she'll always either, like, first of all, when she's jumping, she'll be able... Okay, this time it barely got her. But imagine if she jumped, like, 2 frames earlier. She'll be able to get over the laser. And as soon as she gets over the laser, she can drift in and prevent you from doing a second laser.
Right.
So... Okay. I would say that if you notice that your laser didn't go as high here, you can run in a little bit and get low for the crouch kind of ahead of time, knowing that she's going to try to, like, prevent the laser. But you want the high laser, and that very particular high height of the laser just shuts down everything. And so, and when she's up like this, you either need to be making the choice of going underneath her or doing the high laser. Like, this laser this laser doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Where, so she's here, this laser is not doing anything because she's not. You need to be using it to protect this space over your head.
Right.
And so your rhythm of the laser is off a little bit. And then you're going for this, which is. So this is sort of like a general thing in this matchup, is, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, you should be able to win this matchup. And I would say, so the only Puff I've ever lost to, ever, in Falco Puff, I might have actually dropped one set to Khalid at some point. But by the end of when I was playing Falco Puff, I've been going Fox Puff recently, but at the end of when I was playing Falco Puff, every Puff that I played except for Hungry Box was like they had given up completely. Like both like Khalid and DD, who are like our good SoCal Puffs, basically felt like they could never even touch my Falco ever, and would kind of just get like 3 and 4 stocked. And the reason for that is that I do not play mix-ups. You do not need to play a mix against Puff. You should be able to win. Like, all respect to Z Hammer, all due respect. But if you play this correctly and you follow the rules, you should be able to win the set with only reactable openings.
Okay.
Like, you should be able to see, like, for instance, like, you should be able to see Puff, like, just as an example, like, let's say you end up right here for another reason, like, you got underneath her, and she whiffs this aerial, boom, just hit her with the back air. Yeah, and it's like, quick note, whenever she has you on shield pressure, like this, always just wave dash out of shield. That's just basically the answer. Either wave dash out of shield or roll. She can get a little bit, like, I think they're both good. She can pressure the roll a little bit harder, but the wave dash out is just like, it's just perfect. She struggles with it. Whereas she's going to be reading these full hops out a lot because it's her big high value option. And so, yeah, you can, I think this is the type of spot where, like, right here, where you get kind of, like, right here, where you don't have time to get the laser out. Well, you did kind of have time, but, like, let's assume you don't have time to get the laser out right here, and you see this double jump.
Yeah.
This is when you run in, because it'll take her forever to get down. And as long as, like, if you're here and you were crouching, she does not have anything that can get you. You're either gonna back air her, or if you really, really don't like the position, you can just roll away or shield, wave dash out of shield. There's all, like, she can't really get you here. Whereas this position, it does feel a little scary, but you do have the lasers. As long as you're shooting them high, you'll be safe here. And so notice that the lasers aren't quite hitting her. This is why it's almost, like, tough as a 1 year in player to deal with Puff, is because you're like, okay, you're good, it's free. All you have to do is hit correctly spaced high lasers with a correct timing every time. And it's like, oh, like, that is not particularly easy to do, and if they ever end up low, then, like, suddenly you're getting gimped. And so it's not super easy, but from, like, an analysis perspective and, like, watching your video, this laser is, like, you could just look at this and be like, okay, this laser is, first of all, should be a little bit higher and a little bit later, because it needs to be set up based on her double jump. So, like, she does this double jump right here, and you see the fair come out, and this is like basically like a really common mistake, and I had a feeling this would happen basically when I first showed you the double jump thing at the beginning, is that we all just assume she can get down faster and scarier than she can. And so you're like, she just did this forward air, and because it just feels like she should be able to fast fall out of this really fast. But you have to keep in mind that it's her first midair jump, where, like, the first one, and I showed you that before, the first two in particular, and that's why they always do back air, double jump nair, is that the first two are really high, and then the last three are fairly low. So the first two double jumps every time, you should be big. If you see one of those, you're just like, oh, I'm big chillin'. Like, I'm actually safe for, like, the next 60 frames. And you can just, like, wave dash in or whatever. Like, you're just safe for so long. Like, here, like, look at, like, well, watch this. I'll count it out really quick. Is that, like, okay, so she does this fair, and, like, I'll pause it when I can react to the fair, or, like, react to the double jump. Okay, like let's say I pause it, like I can react to it right here. This is like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. It's like 30 frames before she can even get close to me. And it's like, that's a lot of frames. 30 frames after the reaction.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like, that's 2 full wave dashes.
Uh-huh.
Or like a dash and a wave dash and a crouch. Or there's all kinds of options you can get done there. And so when you see this, it's basically it looks like you did the short hop preemptively, and that's why it's like, okay, it's all this sort of timing rhythm thing where you're like, okay, let's assume you're right here. What your first thought should be is, I need to have a high laser out here to prevent the full hop. I need to create the laser ceiling, but you don't have enough time because you were in the stun of the tech roll. And so you're like, okay, I acknowledge I do not have the time to actually get the laser out to make the ceiling. So you have 2 options. Option 1, like, is go in, right? Go in and crouch. Option 2 is wait and see. So if she decides to jump straight in here and try to hit you, this is a free auto cancel back air on reaction. Like right here. So you just need to see the and the good part is you only need to see 1 phantom Jigglypuff at a time. There should be right here, she's jumping, a phantom Jigglypuff that moves like this and forward airs you. Right here. And you should be like, okay, I can back air that. I can back air it on reaction. You should be waiting to back air it on reaction. You don't need to be doing this preemptive like short hop and jump here. Because you know that, like, okay, you're just watching her. Like, as soon as she gets close, and she's not close enough yet, I would say react around here. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute, she double jumped. And so you can either react with going in here, which, honestly, it's really hard for me to do that consistently. Like, every time she does the double jump to go in, it's more like, sometimes I'm, like, hoping that she gives me a spot to go in. Like, this, I would say going in is the slightly, like, tougher reaction to make. But if you're deciding to zone here, you see this double jump on reaction, you just know that it's going to take, like, eventually you will just know after shooting these lasers enough that it takes her a while to get down. And you can just react to that position. So it feels like the lasers there are just off tempo for when she's going to fall. And so if the laser floor for her is not getting created, then the lasers are essentially not doing anything. Like, none of these lasers here actually did anything. Because they're not in this very particular, like, if it was, imagine if it was right here, if the laser hit her a little bit, like, as she's falling, if there was this laser ceiling here, it stops her drift. Now, instead of being here, she's here, and she can only drift to right here instead of, like, all the way in. And she's just already facing forward, so you didn't need the laser for that. But if she was facing backward, the laser would help by turning her forward. And ooh, yeah, so this is actually, the situation works out like a common reactable spot anyway, where, you know, assume that you had played this slightly better with the lasers, and you hit her with the laser, and she still does this double jump fair, which is really common. And so, like, let's assume you're in this basically same position, and you're like, oh, okay, and you just run in, boom, and you get this, and then you retreat, and you can just do this forever. Like, you can just get the reactable opening forever. This is, so when you're in this spot, this is when you already end up shielding right here, and there's no guarantee that she's coming down right away. All you have to do is pick a side and wave dash out, and then crouch.
Okay.
You can just see that she's about to do this double jump, and you're like, okay, like, you're here, you shield, she double jumps. As soon as you see the double jump, wave dash out, because you basically saw it and tried to jump and hit her. But this is, like, the bait on her end. She's going to throw stuff out so that you get hit rising into her. And so as long as you just wave dash out, this is another free back air. Like, just as a reference, when most of the time when I play Puffs in this matchup, they ask afterward, what was I supposed to do? And I always say, I don't know. And I think Hungrybox basically is very tricky at, like, my sets against Hungrybox were still not bad, but I think he's very consistent at getting at like finding small inconsistencies in his opponent's tech skill and getting like the big opening and stuff like that. And so I
Mhm.
think with some improvements to the same algorithm, I could have been beating HBox with Falco. But against every other Puff who isn't quite as good as HBox, they were just completely lost, basically.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because I kind of remember like about this game thinking like because I feel like the pace of the game sort of went how I would want it to go, where
Mm-hmm.
it was like pretty slow and then we were like trading hits and stuff because I wasn't doing the game plan like 99% perfectly or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of ended up losing instead of winning.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I feel like I'm getting zoned out by Puff, but it's like if I was like obviously like it's part of it the tech skill thing and also like if I was more intentional about following like this game plan, then it
Mm-hmm.
would be the other way around.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so much of it is, and this is why a lot of Falcos don't like this matchup, is because it's kind of it's kind of brain dead. Like once you learn the plan
Mm,
and you know what you're doing, you're just playing like a 25-minute long easy DDR song.
mm,
but like with the chance that they can get in and start something crazy. And it's kind of boring to do it just correctly every time, but it's like
mm,
notice that like they can't do anything this whole time when you're doing this. They can't do anything at all. And then as soon as they don't do anything for long enough, look, you're putting on damage. More damage equals easier to kill Puff. Like that's good, but eventually if they just sit there long enough, you start giving them stuff, you know? Like you're like, "Oh, I'll jump in." And then they're like, "Aha, my big Puff moment." And like if you never give them this, how will they ever get this started, you know?
mm,
And once again, this position when they do this nair, all you have to do here is turn around and do a back air right here. Their options are try to drift in on you and get hit by the back air, or drift away and reset and you get another high laser. But this is basically the only time when they can actually make things happen is if you give it to them. And this is another thing right here. So much of this matchup ends up being reacting to the double jump and being good at reacting to the double jump. Because if you're really paying attention right here when you shield here, or crouch, the crouch was really good here actually. To like, because after this back air, just dash in. You can just
mm.
dash in right here and then crouch again. She's got nothing. She can't fall on you.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And okay, so this spot is not too bad, but okay, once you're right here, your goal is to keep Puff on this side for as long as
Mm,
possible. And so you want to hold center, but the easiest, you know what's even better than holding center? Having the entire stage.
mm,
And so like if you're here, this is you do not want to give up this much space. You want to be right here. You want to be holding her here. Even if she gets past you a little bit, like let's say she goes high and you can't hold her all the way here, like you want to hold her here. And honestly, if you had full hopped up right here and threatened to back her, she would have drifted back and given you
mm,
more position anyway. But even if she does get above you right here, you're like, fine, you took this much territory, but now this is the end of my territory, and I'm going to hold you all the way there. So you want to give up as little space as possible whenever you have her cornered. And yes, like a spot like this is like, okay, you could have gotten underneath her, but not doing so is fine. The laser ceiling needs to be put right here,
mm.
and she would have gotten hit by it, and then right here, laser ceiling again, and now, so like you would have probably just gotten two lasers here out of this. You would have gotten a laser ceiling there, or laser floor, sorry. I forget, but it's like her floor. One here, and these lasers are just too low. So if
Mm.
she actually went in here with like a nair, she'd probably hit you. Oh, okay. Chrome just crashed.
Oh no.
Crazy. Wait, it crashed and it's still open. I'll take it. Okay, so yeah, the laser ceiling stuff here. You can also there's also spots where when she whiffs, and this is part of why I really like FD, is she can't slip below you here, is that if she whiffs an aerial, and I think we're about at time, so this is like probably the last thing I'll mention. Oh, we're 10 minutes over, I don't care. But when she goes above you and throws out an aerial like this, and she full whiffs it, you can just react to that with a full hop aerial here and kill her.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like it's surprise. Like I said, this matchup is all reaction, but honestly, once you get used to it, you will be a lot more comfortable with it, because I think the reason why it's hard to react is because you're thinking of all these mix-ups that could be happening. But if you're exclusively just like, when she gives me freebies, like right here, if you're here, and so I think it's good that you're trying to hold her in the corner, but you're not holding her close enough. Because if you were right here and she whiffs this back air, full hop back
I can
air
just
on
back
reaction,
air?
free
Okay.
win, free
She's
win.
dead, right?
Yes, she's
Yeah.
dead, guaranteed. And so like, there's just basically, you want to be it, to summarize, to end the lesson, you want to be following this solid plan that protects you from her just like, push forward, throw stuff out, hit Falco. And once you can protect yourself from that, she needs to move around and do like, quote, tricky angles to get in. But if you play around the tricky angles right, you can turn those into reactable wins also. And you should basically notice as you start implementing this plan that if a puff is worse than you at playing the matchup, you will start basically like four stalking them, because because they're not getting the things they need. Like, they need the grab, they need the up air, and they need the edge guard. And if none of those things are happening, you will literally never even get hit or die. And like, if I play a random puff and I don't make the obvious mistakes, usually they'll get four stalked. And that's way, way more common in this matchup than in the Fox matchup. Even though Fox has so many like good early kills on puff, he doesn't have the ability to like perfectly control her positioning in a way to never get hit. Whereas Falco, you just show up and you're like, I'm gonna play really campy and react to obvious things she gives me. And that will cover 99% of cases, and eventually there's gonna be a couple little things that they get you for, and you just start solving those one at a time. And I like kind of maintain that like my issue with Hungrybox was that he has a few tricks that other puffs don't use, and I don't really get a chance to practice against them, and didn't really have the willpower to like set them all up in Uncle Punch. And he also refused to play friendlies with me for that reason.
Right. Yeah.
But I think if you can follow this basic plan and learn to play the matchup on pure reaction rather than going for mixes and approaches and stuff like that, it'll start feeling a lot more comfortable. And okay, so do you have any final thoughts or questions based on what we talked about? Might be useful to rewatch this again later, because we went over a lot of points. More points than I would usually want to go over in a lesson, like one lesson, but I just keep being like, no, wait, I gotta talk about this one, it's really important. Like, I don't want you to feel like there's like some missing piece of the matchup that I didn't mention that's really big, you know?
Yeah, no, I took very extensive notes, and I think I still
Okay,
missed some,
excellent. I love to
going
hear
back.
that.
I mean, honestly, that was pretty comprehensive. I mean, I think, like, yeah, the only, like, I don't know. I think the other stuff is just stuff that I don't really need to focus on super hard. Like, the only other specific question I was kind of thinking of was, like, if there's any, like, just easy, better rest punish, then, like, usually what I do is I'll get, like, a smash attack, obviously, if they're a kill percent, or just, like, down air or down throw or something. So I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I can usually just land down air grab, and then that's like a decent amount of damage, and then I just kind of retreat and play patient again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, okay, so it depends what percent they're at. My favorite thing is if they're like at 10, you can get late down air, early down air combos.
Wait, can you say that again? You cut out.
If they're like at around like 10%, you can get like a double down air combo where you get late down air, early down air. And I think that's pretty good. And if they're at high percent, I just charge forward smash. I don't think Falco has particularly great rest punishes against Puff, and so like I would say that doing like the down air grab, back air, whatever that you're doing into like resume playing is fine.
Okay.
Like you're not going to win or lose this matchup usually based on like the quality of your rest punishes.
Mm.
There's some mixes you can do in some spots. Like there is more to the matchup than the stuff we've gone over, but a lot of it
Right.
is
Yeah, of
very
course.
a lot of it is like I would say that like the stuff we talked about like when I am playing this matchup is like 80% of it, maybe 85. There's like platform stuff we didn't really get the chance to go over, and like you might have watched Ginger and seen him do that thing where he short hops around Puff to mix up which side of the shine might hit on to get like a double shine off the
Hmm.
top and stuff. There's a lot of little tricks and stuff like that, but I wouldn't worry about that stuff too hard. You want to super focus on getting these basics down. The more solid you get these basics down, the less the other stuff matters.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
But okay, yeah, good lesson. I'm glad we made it work. Let me know how it goes. I can send the payment info to you right now.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Have a good one. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thanks. You too.
Peace.
Bye-bye.